It's the Rangers Journal now.
Good evening. Welcome to your Rangers Journal podcast on a Friday night. I would normally tell you what it's about, but we've got quite a few things in this one. So we're going to cover off any major news. We're going to talk about the game last night, and then we're going to take a look ahead to the Hibs game as well. With me tonight, I've got a top cast panel, to be fair. So, Billy, how you doing, mate?
I'm okay, mate. Thank you very much. And a quick apology that it is a news podcast because we couldn't get the team together for the Rangers news this afternoon. So we'll have to do it all on this one. But yep, good this evening, mate. Thanks.
And then below Billy, we've got Scotty. How you doing, mate?
Aye, not bad at all, pal. Not bad at all. Happy to be on and chat about the performance last night and all other things, Rangers.
Aye, nice to have a positive one to talk about as well. And last but absolutely not least, Cammy back for more discussion on last night after our wee chat last night.
It only feels like 5 minutes ago since we had the brief post match. So it's amazing. We were saying before we went live the difference in the moods amongst the support on social media off the back of a few positive results and performances. So the longer that continues, the better for all of us.
That's it, mate. That's it in a nutshell. And as we said last night, it's just those kind of small gains, isn't it? Small gains breeds positivity. So I guess we'll start first with probably the biggest item in news as far as the fans are concerned. We're all back in Ibrox this weekend. So full house, fully open, no restrictions. Billy, glad to hear it.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, there's no real telling what being away from the stadium at the beginning of the season has done. Not performance-wise, but just the morale of the fans. There's just been something in the background that's made things just feel a bit meh. It's a new team bonding, and obviously we have to give them time for that. But it just seems to be a kind of stuttery beginning to the season. Obviously, with a great result last night taken into consideration, and we haven't dropped any points at Hampden, but it just never felt like home, did it?
Nah, it's a bit soulless, wasn't it, almost? Yeah. Scotty, do you think this potentially kickstarts the season between that European result and kind of heading back to Ibrox with 3 home games coming up? Do you think that could be a kickstart for us?
I would definitely say we're heading in the right direction. I think last night was a bit of a statement. It was a bit of reassurance for supporters. It definitely was for me anyway, because it's been hard so far this season, let's be honest about it. Circumstances off the park haven't helped matters. Certain things on the park, Clement not getting who he wanted in the transfer window, etc., etc. As long as you win football matches, all that kind of gets pushed to one side, do you know what I mean?
Aye, 100%. I think that's your mantra, isn't it, Cammy? Just keep winning games. Nobody cares about the rest of it, almost.
It's I'd love us to play silky soccer every week, but as somebody that's been watching Rangers for a heck of a long time, other than probably the Advocat era for a couple of years, that's never really been the thing. A great man, Walter Smith, I've shared with you before. I had the privilege of some time in his company a year or so before he passed, and Walter said, Rangers have to just find a way to win. That's what Rangers Football Club is about, is winning games of football. If you win games of football, you've got more chance of lifting cups and league titles. If you can do it with a bit of style and a bit of it's nice to watch, then great. But what keeps the noise at bay is Rangers winning games of football. And we're, as we said last night, since the loss, we've came back for the international break and we've done everything that we could have done. 3 clean sheets, 3 victories, and as I said last night, we've got 3 games to go before the next international break. So no pressure, but same again. But winning games, that's what we live for.
That's it. And Scotty, just I think one maybe concern prior to the game last night was obviously hearing that Hamza Igmane hadn't travelled. I think it was announced after that it was a passport issue, so it's not the dreaded injury curse striking again. Don't want to get too far ahead because obviously we're going to go into it in more detail when it comes to the Hibs preview. But firstly, good news, he's not injured. Secondly, do you think that potentially gives us more options come the weekend, or do you think he'll persist with Desters?
Oh, definitely. I think one thing you've seen with Dessers last night, about the last 10, 15 minutes, is he was obviously through and goal and missed that chance. Personally, I don't put that down to ability or anything else. I put that down to tiredness. I think the big man's needing a rest. He's probably got the hardest job in the Rangers team at centre forward just now due to the amount of work that he's got to put in up there. And I've got to say he's doing it fairly well so far. I've got no complaints with Big Cyril. I would like to see Igaman come in on Saturday or Sunday, because I think there's the want from fans to be able to see proper minutes from him, and also there's the aspect of we need to give Cyril Dessers a rest. So I think that's an obvious kind of exchange for me.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? And I mean, he has looked promising in those minutes that he's had. So, as I say, great news. It's not an injury issue. Let's face it, I don't think any of us would have been terribly surprised if it was. Outside of that, I don't think that there's been a huge amount going on in the world of Rangers, but I just want to open it up quickly. Is there anything I've missed news-wise that you guys can think of? Go on, Billy.
What I was going to bring up in the news today, if we'd done it, was John Gilligan's interview. Because not that he said anything other, that we wouldn't expect him to say, but just that he'd done it. I mean, we've not heard we've heard once, I think, from the previous chairman and none from the one before that. So it was just good to get, he's came out and he's laid the foundation of what he's going to be doing over the next couple of months, looking for a CEO and looking for another, long-term chairman. So it was good to hear him come out and just kind of give a bit of information to the fans, because we've complained in this pod many times that just tell us we're big enough to take what's going on. Just let us know what's going on, not the day-to-day stuff, but the general picture of what's going on. Let us know, then we can be on the journey kind of with them. So I thought that was a positive from this week.
Absolutely, mate. And I think comms are key for any kind of big business, especially where, and I mean, people won't like this, but it is in fact a customer base as far as a business goes. Obviously, we see ourselves as fans. We're in it for the love of the club, but from a business perspective, it is a customer base, and they have to be keeping us informed, I would suggest. So I would agree with Billy, Cammy. I thought that was really positive. Was there anything else about that interview that kind of jumped out to you at all, mate?
I just...
I guess... Sorry, Cammy.
Sorry.
To me, Dave.
No, I just echo what Billy said. I think we've went through a period where somebody said to me a couple of days ago, it's almost like those on the board are scared to talk to the supporters because they're scared to give us news that we don't want. That's what it certainly felt like. If we go back, I can't even mind when the Sydney debacle situation was, but I think ever since then, it's been very much radio silence, and the communication has been amateurish. So I just like the fact, and I thought he was quite blunt in his responses with regard to he wasn't hypercritical of Dave King.
Yeah.
He just basically acknowledged what Dave King had contributed, what his responsibilities as a shareholder, etc. I mean, he can't really win John Gilligan the role that he's got for the next 2 to 3 months, but he laid it out. This is what I'm here for. Mrs. Gilligan's not happy, but I think I've met him a few times outside the stadium, and he's just a bear, the same as the rest of us, and he's I think very, very privileged, and I think he's a good man to facilitate the sort of changes that are going to be needed over the next 2 or 3 months. But I think that was the early part of the week, and the one thing I did like, I think he spoke about Philip Clement about how he had effectively become the spokesperson for the club. And I think I'd spoke about this on a previous pod. He's got enough. I think it was last week on the Rangers news with Bob. Dave King had came out and had said all this stuff. Philip Lamont was then going to get asked about it at his press conference prior to the Dundee game. That's where I like the fact that John Gilligan said, I'm going to almost be the spokesperson for the next wee while. The manager concentrates on the training pitch, putting the team on the park, and go back to what I said, making us happy by winning games of football. And I think that moving forward, that has to be the way that the new chief executive that comes in has to be a good communicator, has to be the voice essentially of the club. But I thought fair play to John Gilligan. I think he didn't have to do it, and I think it all came about, I think, as a bit of a surprise to those people that were in attendance. It all happened quite late on Sunday ahead of Monday. But yeah, fair play to John Gilligan for doing it.
Nah, I'd agree with that, and I think you're spot on. It just has to be the way it is. I mean, Clement's trying to bed in a brand new team, obviously get his tactics across and stuff. It's just totally outside his remit, isn't it? Scotty, just real quick before we move on, I know you've got some pretty strong views on the subject, so just keen to get your thoughts. How did you think the Gilligan interview handled those comments from Dave King? Because, I mean, we've all kind of said they're probably not very helpful. Do you think that played it right? Just almost play it down to an extent and say, he can say what he wants, but we're going to get on with the business, basically.
I think he handled it the way a Rangers man should. I think he was to the point, he was truthful, he was honest, and there's been no noises since, Dave. There's been no noises about the circus off the park since. There was obviously some, there was a certain criteria folk on Twitter that were criticising him, but I completely disagree with them. They're all just Dave King's fans that are wanting a quick fix to me. Rangers aren't going to get a quick fix anytime soon. Where we are is where we are, and I think what we need is stability on and off the park. I think we need to let the manager be a football manager, no manager of a business as well as a football manager. Clement's not the first person to have to do the job like Michael Beale did as well, and whether you agree or not, whether Michael Beale's a good manager or whatever your opinion is on him, it's fact that he had to do more than what was written up in his contract. You know what I mean? Whether he was willing or not, he shouldn't have had that choice. So John Gilligan's come out. He's faced the supporters. He's definitely reassured me. He says Philippe Clement's a smart man. Fair enough. That also gave me a wee bit of reassurance just to stick with the manager, because I was starting to kind of question what I was seeing on the pitch. And I don't think I'm being overly critical there either, to be honest with you, Dave. But see, as long as the club keeps speaking to us, we'll be fine. The support will be okay. No matter what happens on the pitch, as long as the board keep coming out. And I think while this man's at helm, that's what we're going to get. It's good communication, because he knows that's what we want.
And see, to be honest, mate, that's half the battle. Aye, Billy, go for it.
He also mentioned the role of the chairman being a non-executive chairman, which is beneficial to us as well, because that means he will not be employed by the club themselves. He'll be a much more objective person, able to call out maybe some, when he sees the board going a certain direction, try to push something through that won't be beneficial to the club. He can actually call that out without, affecting his position. So that was also a benefit, and what you said as well was good news outside the Dave King stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree, mate. I mean, I think to sum up that whole interview, I've seen people complaining he didn't really tell us much of the ins and outs of what's going to happen. That just isn't realistic. Multi-million-pound businesses don't spit out their business strategy on social media. It's just that simple. I think he reassured the fans. As Scotty said, he calmed a lot of the noise. For me, I think at that moment in time, that interview was exactly what we needed, to be quite honest. Yes, Scotty.
Dave, see if you look at it, see where we were this time last season and where we are this time this season. We have now got a handful of players who are potentially going to make us money. And that's to me, that's why the transfer window was a success in the summer. You know, you can paint it up however badly you want in terms of what the manager did or didn't get, but what he did get, I don't think there's been a bad signing made, to be honest with you. I think we said on a pod a few weeks ago, would probably have been Robin proper, and that was us being extremely harsh. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to add that.
No, I'd agree with that as well, mate. And again, I don't think anyone that's realistic would have expected that everything was going to be done in one window. I think, as you say, the key metric isn't did we get a complete team in this window? It's were the players that we did get a success. And right now it looks like they've got the potential to be. Just moving on from that then. So obviously we're talking about the players. The players last night, hell of a delivered for us. Cammy used the word solid performance. And I think for me, that's absolutely what it was. So I guess firstly, let's take a look at the defence. And I'm just curious, Billy, what was your kind of thoughts on them? Because for me, everyone stayed in front of them most of the game. Yeah, there was a couple of kind of passes that went over and stuff, but the vast majority of that game, it was played in front of the defence, and I thought they managed it really well. Do you agree?
Well, I'm
with
going to
that?
give it. Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out because Casemiro, I think, had a great game. You know, nothing got by him, and that really means that despite having an injury to Ridvan, we've got another option at left back as well. And you know, if right back's his favourite position, Tav's got something to worry about. Because I thought that was I mean, it's just the first game. Fair enough. Well, maybe not. You know, not jump the gun too much. But I thought he had a solid game. There was all this kind of talk about their wingers being the potential, you know, downside, but they never really got, as you say, a sniff one or two things. Tav obviously picking up that early booking wasn't great, but I mean, what can you say about John Suter? He was absolutely solid at the back as well. So that's again probably the best defense. I mean, as a whole, you know, we've put enough clean sheets, but that was a solid defensive. You know, going away to a team that's, you know, they're coming towards the end of their season. They're going to win the league. They'll be firing all cylinders, and we're just starting to build a new team. And we go there and completely within the first minute nullify all that. And you know, there was no real looking back. And from a defensive point of view, they were rock solid, mate.
That's it. And Scotty, I just want to pick up on something that Billy mentioned there, because I think it probably is about time we have this conversation. John Suter, tail end of last season, bit iffy. Even pre-season, there was some doubts about him. What a game he's come on to, I would say, over the last kind of month or so. He has really been the rock that defence has been formed around, I would suggest.
I don't know if I can go as far as that, Dave. I think last night that game suited John Suter. John Suter is the type of defender who, when it's backs to the wall, he'll be the best player on the pitch. When John Suter's got time on the ball, if he's not got space to drive into, he gets himself muddled and confused, and he's prone to the odd error. Now, I'm not saying that he's not, that the defence shouldn't be built round about him. I think him and Proper are going to be that's it going forward for me, and I think quite rightly as well. But I think John Suter's much more suited to European football when Rangers are underdogs than what he might be domestically. I think domestically there's just one or too many errors on it. I want to bring up something really quickly. See, I don't know if you noticed. See the when Jack Butland had the ball and you Suter and Proper were taking kind of wide centre back positions. That's what we were trying to do at Parkhead. So last night when I watched it, I was like, was this the game plan that Cumont was trying to implement at Parkhead? And obviously it went crazily wrong. Now, if that's an indication of Cumont's style of play, then fine. I want to see more of it. I want to see that as a kind of blueprint moving forward. I just thought that was a kind of interesting aspect of it last night, because when we had the ball at the back, the centre backs were utilising the space and the wing backs were getting forward. I mean, Casemiro was barely in his own half in the first half. He was outstanding last night. I need to agree with Billy. It was absolutely brilliant. Tav had a solid enough game on the right hand side as well. I thought that was his probably his best game of the season. defensively, he made no mistakes. I'm going to get it in the comments. Dado Purcell's Blue Boots says Tav was found out again. I don't know how he was found out because he never cost us a goal. I thought he was solid in the tackle. He got forward, contributed, they came inside. I thought Tav was fine last night. He wasn't outstanding, but I thought he was stable enough. I thought it was probably his best game of the season, to be honest.
I said that and I got absolutely slaughtered by Curry in the comments. He was not a happy camper. Cammy, just kind of moving a bit further forward on the pitch then, and I just want to cover the midfield as well. I think at times I've had a bit of a concern that actually they're almost been asked to do too much. There's quite a significant gap sometimes between the defence and the attacking line. And I think at times that's left them a little bit exposed, especially as a two. I thought last night both of them really seemed really on top of their game. And I get with Barron that's not such a surprise, but obviously Diamande's come in for a bit of criticism this season. We did touch on it briefly last night, but I just want to kind of go again. What was your thoughts on Diamande through that game?
Well, I think they played well as a two. You know, I think it was much tighter. It was two of them playing much closer together. I think I said last night there wasn't a lot of spaces in behind, which I think there's times on transition that we have been shown. But I thought Diomande, I echo again, he's a lovely footballer, great close control. I thought he handled the game really well after the booking. The booking that I think a lot of people thought, including the commentators, was Tav, but it was Dio that had pulled the guy back. The fact that you're on a booking, the referee was a bit all over the place. Young guy, you could very easily have the atmosphere was a bit spiky at times. They did try their best, but I thought Diomande handled the occasion. This is a guy that's not played a lot of European football. This isn't somebody that's 50, 60 games experience. I think Connor Barron, exactly the same. So for the future of our club, to have a couple of young players like that helping give us a foundation, that solid base, going away from home. I think Scotty spoke about going across the road a few weeks ago. That's the sort of performance that you need when you go there. When you go up to Aberdeen at the end of October, you need to be solid and there's no spaces in behind, and everybody needs to be working for each other. But I thought the two of them, they were both very much 7 out of 10 solid performances last night. Connor Barron, I know your original point was about Dio, but Connor Barron for me has been our player of the season so far. I'm not getting excited 10 games in, but Connor Barron has exceeded all my expectations thus far. I thought we were getting a young talent, but I think the fact that he's embraced the jersey, I think it's been said before how heavy the shirt is. He doesn't look at his press conference before the game. He watched his press conference on Wednesday night. That's no a young boy. He is a young boy, a young man, but he speaks very, very well, and his performances trying to pass the ball forward, which I love. He's very brave in possession. He doesn't play the easy pass when you're the number 6, just playing it sideways or back the way. But I think it's very positive for us that's a couple of players that we can build our team round over the next couple of years.
Aye, and I think one of the key things to point out is how many times have we heard Clement talking about getting the ball forward and getting it done quickly. And I think for me, what this highlights is if he does get a team full of his own players, do you potentially see a huge difference in what people were saying, wasn't a system or wasn't working at the end of last season? For me, I think Barron's quite a good example, because as you say, he always wants to play it forward. Just real quick, we did have a question in the chat there, and just a quick yes or no will do. Robert Binney asking, is he a future captain? Conor Barron, that is. Cammy, what do you think?
Well, I think the fact that he's brave and he shows leadership qualities, and I think leadership qualities as a captain isn't all about being Terry Butcher, wearing a headband caked in mud and like 2-footing somebody in front of the West Enclosure.
That's,
I mean, if
that's
you
got
can,
its benefits for
it's
me.
got. I mean, listen, if you can do that on top of everything else, then great. But I think Conor Barron has the potential in a number of years to be. He's the type of player I look at him and I would love Conor Barron in 10 years' time, without jumping too far ahead. There's no reason why he shouldn't see the rest of his career at Rangers. There's why not? You know, it's this guy could be successful. The trading model, all that sort of situation, but that might be the type of person that comes and he's there season after season after season. I think he's got the potential. I think John Souttar's been a captain elsewhere. Proper's been a captain elsewhere. I think it's about. I think what was Doug's question there about leadership?
So basically, what leadership qualities do we think Barron's showing?
I think it's bravery. I think it's bravery. You know, bravery and ownership, and not shrinking, not allowing the expectations of the 50,000 at Ibrox and the fan base that is desperate for success. He's shown bravery and coming in and looking as if a guy that's been there for 12, 18 months. He doesn't look as though he's been in the door five minutes. So for me, the early signs are he has leadership qualities and leadership potential. But I want 5 or 6, 7 players like that. I was brought up in an era with Stuart McCall, Ian Ferguson, McCoist, Richard Gough, you know, guys that would have kicked each other black and blue on the training pitch because they were winners, and they all wanted the best for their teammates and they wanted the best for the football club, and that's leadership, and that's driving the standards every single day in training and on a pitch. And Conor Barron, in short term, I don't think so, but I think 5-6 years down the line, if he's still a Rangers player, he's got the potential without a doubt.
Aye. Okay. Scotty, what do you reckon for potential captain in the future, mate?
I don't know. If I'm being honest, I like the way he addresses the press. I think that's probably why there's this clamour for him to be a potential captain in the future, because he says, I want to do my talking on the park and on social media, etc., etc. It does take responsibility on the pitch. It doesn't, I agree with everything Cammy says about him. It could be at Rangers his whole career, but I think he's good enough to progress and earn a move elsewhere, which is where we are as a club just now. Let's be honest. We need the money in the door, and players like Conor Barron and Diamande and Jeff Day, etc., are the future of your player trading model. But if mitigating circumstances are occurring, he's here, then brilliant. The longer he's here in a Rangers shirt, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So I wouldn't be against it. I would probably be all for it, because I'm brought up in a kind of the same eras in terms of Barry Ferguson was my captain growing up. So the Scottish centre mid in the middle of the park and shouting and bawling and harrying folk, and that's the type of captain I'm used to in a Rangers jersey. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think this all comes within the supports, because we've all grew up seeing these guys like your Terry Butchers, your Richard Goughs, even your Amarussos, Barry Ferguson. You've seen Stephen Davis, Stefan Kost. You've seen all these guys and they've been successful. So that's the bar that's set. But that's maybe not where we are in today's modern game. Yeah, you hear youth coaches talking about how they need to, how youth players are treated these days and how they should be treated a wee bit like the olden days, and are not. I think that's a good example of where the game's actually at when it comes to Rangers captaincy.
Yeah, that's all fair enough. And Billy, what's your thoughts on it in the future?
Nothing to add what that these guys have said. Yes, potential. I don't know if we'll keep him long enough. I think he'll make us a decent bit of money. But yes, if he's here 100%, looks like he is the right model. I'll disagree with Cammy in one thing, that I do think all those things are a necessity to be Rangers captain, by the way, Cammy. The 2-footed tackle and the blood on the shoulder, or the head, sorry. But even your players like Neil McCann weren't afraid to, dig in and square up to folks. So you need that throughout the team. But no, nothing else to add. Those guys have covered everything.
Cool. And I guess as much as it is positive, right, and I'm not taking anything away from the result, it would be remiss for us not to talk about the kind of profligacy in front of goal. There wasn't anyone. I think the bonus is that, it's not almost for God's sake, Dessers, you donkey, you've missed 10 shots now or something daft like that. But as a team overall, I think we were a wee bit maybe blasé in front of goal. I think Cammy and I described it yesterday. Given the kind of trouble that we've had over the last year or so defensively, there's always that risk at 1-0, that kind of fear that something's going to come in and potentially ruin your night. I think we could have had that game dead and buried by half-time, in fairness. What's your kind of thoughts on that? Do you see any issue there, or was it just the way it goes?
Talking to me?
Aye, talking to you this time, Billy.
Got to make sure. I'm assuming it was Colin at the Gallant Few. He tweeted a really funny thing earlier on, saying that we've made ourselves at home in Sweden because we also hate the finish, because it was so many chances to put that game to bed. And also credit, I don't know if it was yourself, Dave, in our chat last night, or one of the other guys in the chat, saying it was an unselfish assist by Dessers for that opening goal as well. That was quite funny. So when you're winning and when you're up and you've got the opportunity to go 3, 4, 5 goals up, it feels like a wasted opportunity, because you don't get that very often in Europe. It's great to go away and win 2-0, but that was a 5-0 display last night, and only down to, it's been mentioned earlier on, maybe tiredness with Dessers, and also just Casemiro's not really exactly not known for being, we don't know much about him, but it's the first shot and he misses. But there was a couple that should have really been put away last night. In fact, Czerny, did he not miss a similar one in the first half as well? So there could have been easily 5-6 goals last night. So it's something that's a little bit of a concern. It's been a concern for a while. When we're 1-0 up, are we going to get a goal against us and then we're either drawing or potentially losing? But it's not helped by Dessers basically carrying that one position for the last 10 months, and that's also not helped by one of our players not being allowed in the country.
Aye, that was a bit of a strange one. Right, Scotty, Bayrami's goal. Obviously, I think it's probably fair to say the vast majority of the work was done by Dessers. Obviously got himself in there, took the shot, cannoned off the post, and then Bayrami, right place just to slot it away. When we had Redian on the pod, he did speak about Bayrami playing as almost an inverted winger, kind of similar to what we saw from Sima last season, and being able to get himself in the right place. Were you quite impressed with that and his overall display?
I always look at players playing out a position and seeing if they're any good at it. I always compare them to Stephen Davis under Walter Smith when he played right mid. But he didn't play right mid. He played in an area of pitch that he came in. Thought Bayrami was excellent last night. It was my biggest threat. It was good in the ball, tidy, he tracked back. He's got the work rate that we all love to see here in Scotland. Can pick a pass, took his goal really well. I mean, he couldn't really miss it, let's be honest with you. But Coisty was funny on co-coms, and he was saying, how does Dessers not lift his head? Why didn't Dessers lift his head? I'm not here to criticise tonight. I'm not going to Dessers bash either. To
be fair, as someone else said, would McCoy lifted his head and passed that?
But no, back to Bayrami, I think he'll be okay out in left mid or covering one of them positions, because he'll just kind of drift infield, but he'll also track back. See, my favourite bit about it last night was he told McCausland to go and celebrate with his supporters. That was the best thing he'd done in the park for me. He's bought right in it. You can tell, Dave.
Yeah. And Cammy, again, we kind of briefly touched on this last night, but I just want to talk about that second goal. That was very well taken. And for me, that's not something that we would have seen from Ross McCausland much last season. I think he just kind of hung about on the wing, kind of almost uninvolved at times. Whereas I know Clement talked about it, but there seems to be a real drive from him now to get into the middle of the pitch and get a shot away.
I think it's refreshing. The doubts that we've had over some of us have had about what we're actually doing on the training pitch, and the manager spoke about the work that's been going on with Ross McCausland to work on. Like, it's not just something that's happened overnight, getting him to come in on his left foot. And they said 6 months ago he couldn't. But the only way, as I always say to my wee boy, the only way you get better at kicking with your left foot is practice.
Kicking with your left foot.
And kicking with your left foot. And that's, if you've been brought through the ranks and nobody's addressed that with you, and then it takes a manager to come in, a manager and his coaches to come in and see something that's a weakness in his game. I mean, he cracked one against Kiev off the bar.
Aye.
So that was like his top bins. That would have been an absolute cracker. The one last night, as I said on the post match, his anticipation is what makes the goal. The fact that he's quickest to react, and then he just knocks it into the bottom corner. I've spoke with Billy and Scotty on another podcast about young Ross, and I think so far this season he's doing everything that I wanted him to do with the opportunities that he's getting. He's not the first choice as it stands at the moment, but he's coming in when the games, like the teams are a wee bit tired, and he's having an impact, and that's a couple of goals he's got this season. Long may it continue. I think it's good to hear work's going on a one-to-one basis to improve players in areas that they need to, and I think Ross McCausland is testament for that.
I'd have to agree with that, mate. So I guess probably not much more to say on last night, if I'm being totally honest. I think it's good for me to see that the overriding kind of feeling about it seems to be positivity. I mean, obviously, there's still some folk unhappy. I think there always will be. You're never going to please 100% of the people. But, at the same time, the vast majority of folks are seeing this as progress, which, again, as we've said, is all we can really ask for. So just a reminder, folks, before we move on to looking at the Hibs game, if you're not already liked and subscribed, please do so. Content out most nights, and if you turn your notifications on, you get a wee cheeky reminder that it's coming up. And if you can and you like what you hear, please do like this video as well before Scotty's putting more like comments in the chat. So moving on to the Hibs game then, folks. Obviously, they're coming thick and fast. I have seen something on socials just before I came on here. Clement talking about a couple of players having a knock, but he didn't give any names. So could potentially upset our predicted team. Maybe not. I guess it depends who's taken those knocks. But looking ahead to the game, I guess first off, just what's your overriding feeling after last night? Are you actually quite positive now, Scotty? Do you think it's there for the taking, I guess?
Aye, definitely. I think that I think we, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, we look as if we're kind of heading into that vein of form where we got into under Clement when he first came in, and we went on that kind of unbeaten run. I'm hoping for something similar to that. We kind of need to get something similar to that, and the fixtures are good too. In this block of matches where away to Tannadice, away to Malmo is your kind of hardest fixtures in amongst that. Mm-hmm. Hibs at home, Hibs haven't been great at all this season, which is really looking to take them, if I'm fair. But I would just a decent win, a couple of goals, and another clean sheet will bring on some keep a good feeling going.
Aye, that's it, mate. That's it. And Cammy, what about yourself? Are you much the same? Quite positive after last night and the last few games, in fact.
I'm just seeing signs of progress, and that's what you. If you're seeing signs of progress while you're winning games of football, the added bonus of being back to a full Ibrox can't be underestimated. 3 games across the next 8 days, real opportunity to build further momentum going into the next international break. I think the team selection, I think it'll be very much dependent on whose body's recovered. It's a very quick turnaround from Thursday to Sunday, particularly when you're away in Europe. I think Lawrence might be one of them. Just guessing with regard to he looked as though it was either a bit of cramp or his hamstring or whatever. And I think, can his body sustain the schedule between now and the next international break? It's hard to say. So you might see. I think you've got Jeffy coming in. He's coming back fresh. You've got Igaman coming back into the squad fresh because he's obviously not had any involvement. So that gives us the opportunity to freshen things up. I think you'll see 2 or 3 changes to the starting lineup. I think. I think Lawrence will miss out, but I think Dessers will start for me. I think he'll probably sleep in the Cairo chamber between now and Sunday lunchtime, and he'll be fine. But there's never any love lost when we come up against Hibs. It's always a bit spiky, and they're the games that you enjoy, and the crowd's going to be right up for it. We're all happy after last night. There's a bit of feel good and a bit of positivity back, and that's going into this week back at Ibrox is massive. So I think maybe a couple of changes, 3 points, move onwards to Lyon. That's what I'm looking for.
I think, to be fair, Cammy, you're talking about the Hibs game being spiky. That probably is where we need our captain with a headband caked in blood and 2 foot in folk, yeah? Right, so we actually conducted a poll. Well, I say we. Scotty conducted a poll in the group chat with all the podders. And this is the starting lineup that we've predicted between the team there. And I think most of it was actually pretty non-controversial. I think most of them were pretty clear. So let's just run through it. Goalkeeper, I don't suppose any of you have got any complaints about Butland starting there. So we'll probably just skip that one. Left back, Jeffy coming in, according to the podders. Do you think that'll happen? Do you think there's an argument potentially that Casawerjo continues there? Because he is going to have to play the Lyon game there, or someone other than Jeffy is, and I can't imagine they'll throw Ridvan straight into that sort of game. So do you think that'll happen, Scotty, or is there an argument, as I say, that maybe Casa continues?
There's an argument that you bring Robbie Fraser in. I think that Clement and his pre-match presser had said Robbie's not played at this level, which is fair enough. He didn't want to throw the young boy in to get slaughtered or whatever could have potentially happened. You could potentially bring him in the left. You could move Jeffy to left wing, and then you could put Barami in at his position for Lawrence. There's loads of things you could probably do. I do think Casemiro will drop out. It'll be harsh. He was very good the other day, last night. Sorry. Great debut, great performance. But I think the way the boys have voted, I think Jeffy will probably fill in at left back.
Okay. And Billy, Proper and Suter in the middle. I think they're absolutely our first choice pairing. I guess the only question is, would you potentially rest one of them for this?
Not yet. I think the manager still will want to see that kind of relationship grow. Proper's not, they've not, well, the same Proper's not been here long, they've not played together for long. So I think he might want to kind of foster that relationship between the two of them. So I'd be hopeful that they both are still fit enough. And they're not at that point of the season where they're needing to drop out because of needing a break. We probably should have the majority of possession, probably 60% possession. So, no, I'd be happy with them two to stay there, mate.
Okay. Sorry, Cammy. You kind of landed the controversial one. James Tavernier overwhelmingly voted, I would say, in the group chat poll. Do you think he starts? I know there's noise that he shouldn't, but I guess the question is, what does Clement think? And do you reckon Clement will go in?
100%. 100%. He's, I think it's been clear that he is the first choice right back without getting into that discussion. I think last Saturday against Dundee was the fixture. If James Tavernier was going to be, his minutes are going to be managed, and he's going to be given the opportunity to sit out on occasion. But I think a league game against Hibs, your captain starts. There's no any doubt at all with regard to that. I think if we get through the next two games, I think the fixture against St Johnstone at daft o'clock, whatever it is, 8 o'clock on the Sunday night, I think that potentially could be the one that you might see more changes. But I don't think we're in a position yet that we can underestimate opposition. I think we have to go in as strong as is fit and available. But Tav will be leading this team for the rest of this season. Of that, I've got no doubt.
Yeah, and I think the manager's been clear in that, if I'm being honest, regardless of what we as fans do or don't think of him. I think Clement's been clear he trusts him and he sees him playing as the captain at right back. Scotty, Conor Barron and Diomande in the centre. I guess very similar to kind of Proper and Suter behind them, beginning to start form quite a nice partnership. There is kind of quite a few comments calling for potentially Raskin to get a shot. Do you think Clement will persist with his first choice too, which very clearly seems to be these, or do you think there's an argument to bring Raskin in for some rotation?
Well, first thing I need to say is Nico Raskin is not a young Reno Gattuso. He's just not, right? He's shown nothing to be the next Reno Gattuso in a Rangers jersey. I think we need to keep the spine of the team the same. And by that, I mean Butland, Suter, Proper, Diomande and Barron. That's the kind of base of your team, and that needs to be allowed to form partnerships. And if it was Ross County or somebody a lesser opposition, then I would probably more of a shout for bringing in Raskin for Diomande or Raskin for Barron. But I would stick with the two midfielders as it is.
Aye, and no surprise to anyone, but the front line is where we maybe started having a wee bit more of a debate about who started where. So obviously in the final lineups, this was majority rules, unless Scotty just picked someone, I can't remember it, but I'm pretty sure it was majority rules. So we've got Bayrami, Lawrence and Journey. Billy, let's come to Journey. Again, I think it's more the social media pattern than anything, but I have seen a few grumbles about him now, kind of culminating after last night, but, claiming that he's been rubbish since we got him, bar the first two games, which I do think is a stretch. Is there an argument that he could do with a rest and you maybe bring in like some McCausland instead for some minutes?
I think there's definitely a shout from it, not because I think he's doing rubbish as you were saying. Wingers are like that. I don't mean hot and cold, but they're not. Maybe sometimes they only do one thing in a game, and that's what wins the game, and that's why you've got them in the team. So I've not got a problem with him at the moment. He's again still a new player coming into a new team. There is a shout from McCausland. They took that goal fantastically well, and there is a shout that Czerny could also be rested. I think probably that's the most likely if there's going to be a change in the starting lineup, that's probably the most likely one. But I would have no. I think I voted for him. No problem with him being there. I think he is definitely a step above Ross McCausland at this point in time. So if he does get the nod, I'm happy with that. And hopefully we start the game. We started the game against Celtic out the blocks. We started the game last night out the blocks. If we can do the same again, that's been a complaint about us, that we don't really kind of get kick-started to the second half. We can come out firing, and then he can come off for the 60th minute and get McCausland more minutes. I'm happy enough with that.
Yeah, and Cammy, the next two kind of come hand in hand, I guess. Firstly, Tom Lawrence is the 10, Bayrami on the left. Would you maybe like to see Bayrami get a game at 10 and potentially, I don't know, like Yefte on the wing and Fraser Okasa behind him? Do you think this is likely to be what we see, or do you think there'll maybe be some tweak in there?
I think, as I said earlier, I think Lawrence could potentially be one of the injury, the sort of niggles after last night. So you may find that Bayrami comes in more centrally, Casa stays at left back, and Jeffy gets pushed one on. That's a potential. I think Cherny only played. He didn't play the full game last night, so I would expect Cherny, unless there's been an injury, I would expect him to start. Ross McCausland to continue in the same sort of role that he's been filling across the first couple of months of coming on for the last 20, 25 minutes. But I think that when I think this is the team that I picked as well. So, but I think you let the dust settle a wee bit. I think Lawrence, I think he could be one that could be taken out, and Kieran Dell.
You're getting the blame if that happens, by the way, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
But I think Bayrami, and I think there is potential for Jeffy to go one on and Casa after a very solid debut. I think Martin Boyle will probably be playing on that side of the park for Hibs. So I think somebody that can deal with his pace. But I think it's going to be very close to the team that played last night, bar maybe 2 or 3 changes.
And just before we come on to up top, just to point out, so the Rangers Journal is running a competition. It's available on our Facebook page. I'm pretty sure it's on Twitter, although I'd have to check that. And basically, if Hamza Igamane scores in this game, we will fund 2 free tickets to the Rangers Museum. So all you've got to do for that is like and subscribe to the channel, comment below with a screenshot showing that you've done both, and you'll be in with a chance, assuming Igman scores. So, Scotty, with that in mind, and not wanting to deprive the viewers of these tickets to the Rangers Museum, we've said Dessers will start. Do you fully expect him to start? Because I'll be honest, I do. I'd like to see Igman start, but I strongly suspect we're right and Igman will come on. What do you think will happen there, mate?
This was the closest vote in the poll, I think. I think Dessers won at 6-5. So I voted Iggaman. I want Iggaman to start up front because I think we need that freshness up top. It's nothing against Dessers, but like I said, that chance he missed last night, I think was down to tiredness. I think he's played a lot of football. He's played a hard role and he's played it well. Albeit didn't play it very well at Parkhead, but nobody played their roles very well at Parkhead, so you kind of gave him a buy on that game. I would go with Iggaman up top just because the supporters want to see him. Dessers needs a rest, but if not, I would probably go 45 and 45 for each player. I think Iggaman really needs to start coming into the team now and being a wee bit more involved, because I just don't think Dessers playing an hour and Iggaman playing 30 minutes is going to benefit anybody, if that makes any sense.
He's not getting the time to kind of build that consistency.
And by what we've seen off Iggaman, he's not going to be a bad replacement, put it that way.
Aye, I would say not. Okay, just lastly then, real quick, time to put you all on the spot. So we'll come to you first, Billy. What's your score prediction?
Going to go 4-0.
4-0. Confidence, I like it. Cammy?
I'm going 3-0. I think I'm going against the captain. I think Dessers will start the game. We will be 2-0 up by the 60-minute mark, and Igaman will come on and will get his first goal for Rangers to finish the game off. That's my prediction.
You're always popping my bone, aren't you? My heartbeat bone. You're always popping it somewhere.
So come on then, Scotty. What you're thinking for this one?
I'm going to go 2-0, but I think it'll be the wingers, the wide men that get the goals, because I really don't know who's going to start up front.
See, I hate saying what someone else has said, and I normally always try to pick something different. But I'd kind of settle on 2-0 as well, to be fair. I'm not convinced it'll be that high scoring because I think there might be a bit of tiredness after this one, especially if we don't change it up. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, so on that note, thanks very much for watching, everyone. If you did like what you saw, please do like the video. And as I mentioned before, like and subscribe to the channel, or Scotty will be messaging you in the chat asking you to. Other than that, just remember, every night's a Rangers Journal night. Thanks for watching.